All right, we are ready for our next session, and that is going to be a fireside chat with Andrew, who is the founder of Ink. And we're going to talk about all the things that Ink Protocol is excited about. So without further ado, please welcome Andrew on stage. Andrew, I'm excited to be chatting with you here. There's a lot of buzz going on around what Ink's been doing. And I want to kind of just have the audience understand a bit more about the backstory here. And I want to start off by asking, what made you start Ink, and what was the goal behind Kraken taking on this initiative?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Ink is an optimistic L2 that was spawned by Kraken. And our focus is entirely on bringing Kraken clients on chain. That was like our big motivator at the beginning. We actually didn't start with an L2. We started experimenting with zero knowledge proofs and bringing clients into like permissioned pools that could be only Kraken clients on chain. And that was well over a year ago, actually, even before Coinbase announced Base. So we were experimenting with like, okay, we see the trend that's happening. How do we just get more users on chain and start blending the world between off chain and on chain? And naturally, kind of took this course of, instead of just creating like a single kind of zero knowledge proof like product that people can start like going on chain with, why not build out a whole ecosystem centered around DeFi? And so we decided to spawn something called Ink, and then make an L2. I do have one question. How many? So we have over 14 million clients on Kraken. What percent do you think have ever withdrawn from Kraken
Just in their entire lifetime?
in their entire life? Yeah,
I'm going to guess 10.
almost. It's only about 20%.
Wow.
So we have a lot of like, on the centralized side, there's a ton of opportunity to educate people on what more you can do on chain, and that's why we think like Ink is like the perfect, backed by Kraken and having kind of like our ethos put into it. It was a perfect ecosystem for us to build and get more clients on chain.
That's awesome. So kind of jumping into what that ethos is, tell us kind of how you talk about what Ink is to somebody who's, in this case, a centralized exchange user that has not ever kind of moved assets off chain, or somebody who has now option of 100 plus L2s to pick from. What makes it unique?
So being blunt, like on the technical side, it is an optimistic L2 built on the superchain, right? So we are limited in what we can actually push, which I think is to our benefit, so that we can actually focus on these experiences that make it really easy to use and get on chain. So our whole goal is basically just full abstraction. Everything about crypto abstracted, and make sure that when you're on chain, it feels like a centralized experience, that you're basically on some kind of like cypherpunk neobank where you have access to all your finances in one click. And then if you want to, have your savings account that goes into yield, or I don't know, you want to get into more of the fun gaming side, you can just easily move around and do things seamlessly. So I think what sets it unique though is that Kraken has been around for over a decade, and we have this long-standing reputation of security and being really true to crypto, and emphasizing that you shouldn't be blocked on what you do with your finances, and you should be able to do that in somewhat of a private way. And we think, obviously, we're very crypto aligned, so like we just wanted to make that experience really easy with crypto.
Does that mean you're, in addition to just kind of having this chain out there and maintaining it and giving the kind of the best uptime and security guarantees, you're also going to be introducing products that you're building on chain for the users?
Yes, and that's actually the strategic choice for using the OP stack. Is we really didn't want to have to build out a whole team that's like really heavily focused on the protocol. We wanted to be able to put our resources into building our own products and making our own applications on chain, and then also our own kind of like portals to get on chain and make it really easy. So majority of Ink's resources is on the product build.
That's awesome, and I think that's how it should be. Infrastructure should fall into the solve now problem category. Mostly out of curiosity, when you were deciding between what stack to build this on, and kind of ultimately landed on using Superchain and the OP stack, what kind of were the other considerations and other candidates in terms of like the features you were anywhere from aiming for or wanted to get, and how was that decision made, and kind of what was factored in?
So we tried everything under the sun. We were internally we're running test nets on Arbitrum, ZK Sync, Optimism, everything. We really enjoyed the features of every single one. Like obviously ZK, you can go back to the L1 instantly. Optimism, you got to, there's that 7-day window still if you're just doing it kind of like the vanilla way. And then Arbitrum was awesome because of stylus, and you could write arbitrary Rust or C++ in a contract. We had a lot of, we're a Rust first company at Kraken, so we had a lot of internal experiments around that. But ultimately it came down to kind of like, hard decisions on network effects, and then what kind of roadmap we vibed with the most. And we really, we started contributing a little bit to the interoperability stuff early on. And so we really latched onto Optimism's vibe, what they were shipping, and we wanted to kind of go all in on that.
That's awesome. As part of this kind of experiment, how do you think about general L2 optimizations that you can still make on Ink here? Like, do you kind of care about having higher gas than the rest of the super chains, or a lower block time, or any other considerations?
So yeah, even though we're limited on the protocol side, these all the different sidecars and everything you can run on an L2, we're definitely experimenting with. So we want to get down to the 250 millisecond block time, because I think that's going to be kind of a commoditized thing. Like a year from now, everybody's going to be, around that area. Ignoring mega ETH, they'll be way faster than that. But it's so running like commit boost or working with Kubi on the Gattaca side, and like kind of exploring around, how do we get to those 250 millisecond block times. And then also on the security side, we are centrally running the sequencer right now. And so we do, in that stage before we get to decentralization, right now we have a huge opportunity to be able to add some of those security features where developers can optionally choose like what kind of like levers and kind of dials they put in their contracts or assertions, so that if they're asleep and all of a sudden there's a transaction in the mempool that drains, I don't know, a liquidity pool for $100 million, it'll auto pause the contract and not execute that. So on the security and then the block time efficiency, I think that's what we're looking
I
for.
mean, those are pretty good, pretty good, nice to, not
Yeah.
even great to haves, not even nice to haves. In terms of, you kind of brought up sequencers and managing kind of the execute or the roll up pieces here. How do you, as Kraken in this case, think about what does it mean to run a sequencer, and what does decentralization means here, and kind of what are some of the levels here where you'll feel comfortable this being open versus kind of one party running this, and what's kind of the security mindset on this?
We were, I think this was in January. We were the first, besides OP mainnet, we were the first chain to get to stage 1 with the permissionless fault proofs. So that's always been core to our ethos, and we actually set up the whole kind of like foundation and structure of how the L2 is offered in a decentralized way, so that we can prepare for not being the sole operator of the sequencer. But we're going to be working heavily with Optimism and with the wider community on the based and native sequencing kind of talks that are going on. Which could get a little spicy with like people that have their own visions of like the super chain or something, but I think it'll be all harmonious at the end. But yeah, we're constantly thinking about stage 2. How do we make sure that we have some kind of network that anybody can run their own validator? It's just I think we're more of like a year or so out from being able to execute on that, but that's top of mind. Like I think with Kraken's ethos, we care. Like Jesse, our founder, constantly says on Twitter, like, don't hold your funds on exchanges. That ethos goes over to Ink, and we want to make sure that we kind of mirror that and say, like, yeah, we are going to be decentralized. Don't trust us to run the sequencer. Even though right now, yes, but I think with our security practices, they're pretty damn good. So it, we'll be decentralized, I think, over a year.
And I think given kind of how early you're 2 months into the launch, you're going to need that ramp up anyway, just to sort of see everything in anywhere from run into edge cases or just how people are using the chain. So that's actually pretty exciting that this is already something in the works. When you think about Ink as a network, do you have a specific thing that you would like people building on it to focus on? Is it going to be DeFi heavy, or does it not matter as long as you kind of have this option for people to kind of park or just use a different L2? Like, what's kind of the pitch to developers or in general users here?
It's definitely DeFi. So anything around like perp dexes, the kind of typical kind of like tech tree that's there for DeFi, we definitely want to work with you and build with you. I think we have the unique opportunity with all of our institutional clients and the big clients on Kraken that are really hungry for some kind of home that's backed by Kraken. So we have a lot of loyal customers that really love, like again, our ethos and just have been with us for a very, very long time. And so they're looking to help fund projects. We're looking to help fund projects. And yeah, it's basically anything in the tech tree of DeFi. There's some institutions that also want to help inspire some builders to like maybe make an aggregator that has optionality to get into Kraken's order books in some way. Like if there's a better route that goes over to Kraken, or there's some combined liquidity of on-chain and off-chain, we definitely want to see some ideas come from there.
That's a very kind of interesting point you've made, and I think I just picked it up with this. You mentioned this a couple times in the answers, but is it is it a correct understanding that a lot of institutions want to be on chain, but they are hesitating because they're worried about security of their assets? And is that kind of the reason why those institutional clients are more excited to be on Ink, because they're effectively getting that additional level of trust and reputation, or are there some other factors, and kind of what's stopping them from trying something else?
It's a good question. I think they have a lot of complexity. Most of the time, they need like a qualified custodian to be able to execute things on their behalf.
But does that apply to the chain though?
Doesn't apply to the
Okay.
chain. Yeah. I have heard, I think this varies in every jurisdiction, right? But I have heard some institutions have to go through like a heavy regulatory approval just to use a new chain, or just to like use an asset that has been issued on a chain. Then they have to kind of go through approval to be able to do that. So that's one complexity. The qualified custody piece is another complexity. But the ones that do get comfortable with using like a Gnosis safe on chain, yeah, they do kind of pick favorites. And some are more mercenaries. I think that they don't care. They'll go anywhere. But there are some that have that intense loyalty and are looking for people that talk about security or talk about the ethos and um, just want to understand that the contracts that they're interacting with are safe, but also the chain operator is safe as well. But the institutional topic, I think they just have so many complexities around how they operate. But if we can make them like a more comfortable environment, then great.
I think that's a pretty good win, because ultimately that's what we're trying to bring in the first place. And if they can get more comfortable through somebody they trust, that helps everybody.
They can live harmoniously with the degens. It's like it's totally fine, and we can make a good environment for both.
It's yeah, I don't think it's a war going on. It's just it's just one of them exists on chain, the other ones don't. That's what it is. Um, One other thing I'm kind of curious about is obviously seeing an exchange launch a chain is not a new thing. Uh, Binance started this thing a few years ago. We've seen a lot of other exchanges do this, Base being a recent one. Um, as you were kind of thinking about these things, I'm kind of curious to know, to the extent you're willing to talk about this, what were kind of some of the lessons that you learned from how they launched, and things that you were like, oh, we should definitely not do this, or we should definitely do these things. Like, what were kind of some of the insights that you have effectively had the ability to take in from them being early?
A few things. So we could have we launched this thing very early, like we accelerated our timeline. We were actually going to launch this week, but we did it like right before Christmas, which was torture. But we did it, and we could have, even if we were to launch this week, we could have still delayed like a year. And I think that's a model that some have done. Bearchain, I think, was extremely successful doing this, like taking a very long time to get everybody, like liquidity on board and all these different partners. We could have taken that route, but we just wanted to really just get the thing out there and see, what kind of feedback we get, how our messaging evolves as we engage with the community. And it's been a lot of fun so far. And if you look at, things that I said back in like October when we announced to now, it has evolved, right? Like we are listening to people, we are, building and getting feedback, doing all kinds of interviews and just hearing what people want. So I like the approach we took, but it is hard. Sometimes you go to sleep at night and you're thinking like, could we have waited longer? And maybe would have a higher TVL, or we'd have more partners or something if we waited a year. But again, conversely, like I think it's very fun, like getting these partners while we're in the open and just discussing in the open, like, hey, we don't know what we're doing, but like, hey, do you want to come build with us? And it's just been amazing building these relationships. But then secondly, like on the exchange ones, I think there's a huge opportunity for that user journey and UX. I think as like with Dynamic and with everybody else that are kind of making like a lot of account abstracted things, there's a lot of experimentation out there, and you can, as an exchange, and you have like this kind of like ragtag team of like almost like a little mini startup in a big company, you can fall victim to just like having a ton of experiments out there, and it feels very fragmented because there's so much new tech. You're throwing things out and seeing what sticks. So I think just being a little concentrated and still doing those experiments, but making that user journey is like a lesson from some of the other exchanges. So it's like you're not just relying on MetaMask and the kind of typical journey. How do we just, if you're on Kraken, you have one click and it's like this whole world is open to you. That's what we're aiming for.
That's awesome. And I guess like one thing that I kind of constantly see as a theme is people don't realize that the best way to improve a product is putting it out in front of people, and that's kind of the developer mindset. That's also like the startup mindset, and you choosing to wait a year only kind of hurts your chances of getting to that right converging point of what people actually want or what works and what doesn't. So I'm actually very happy to hear that you were able to launch 2 months before timeline. On that note, how has it been? How have the last 2 months been, and what are kind of some things that you noticed or the feedback you've gotten so far?
Barely any sleep. But yeah, we just have like a lot of people that really feel that they want like a home, right? They want to like build their new protocol. So we have many people that are working with us that aren't going to be here until like Q2 or Q3, and they just kind of say like, hey, we really like Kraken, we really like the ethos, we like the things you guys are pushing, and this kind of like one-click DeFi experience you want to make from the exchange, and they just want to build with us. And so like you said, like if we had waited a while, I don't know if we would have gotten that kind of talent or these people just wanting to chat with us and jam and vibe. So it's been, I wear many hats. I was just an engineer, so like I'm in all kinds of BD calls. Like it feels like hundreds a week, but it is awesome just connecting with everyone that wants to build, wants to have a new home, wants to bring the liquidity to ink. And there's just a ton of stuff in the pipeline, and I can't wait to see like a year from now, like just looking at all the stats, looking at how people are managing their wealth. And I think there's an important thing in it too of like we're leaning into in the last few months, like just having fun again on chain. Like you can have fun doing yield, you can have fun like doing things beyond just meme coins, and I think we're cooking up some fun stuff.
Not investment advice. So maybe my last question to you is kind of on like a personal note, as a founder of Inc. and taking this on, what kind of are you worried about right now, and what are you excited about the most over the next year or two?
Worried about? I think it's like almost the same answer for worried and excited. The base to native sequencing discussions, I think that'll get a little heated for a while. A lot of people are signaling that this is the route to go.
Maybe for the audience, why would it be heated? Because somebody gets displaced, or?
Yeah, I think maybe some people's roadmaps get displaced. And I'm not going to name any names, but like it could interrupt maybe some multi-year plan that you had, and now like the whole community is kind of coalescing over this new push for how like maybe we do sequencing on L2s. So I think that could just be a little heated, but it is protocol development in the open, so like it's natural that's going to happen. So that worries me, but it also excites me. I think
there's opportunity here.
Yeah, there's a ton of opportunity, and then like maybe broader, the Bybit thing definitely sucked. I think it is kind of like obviously everything like we're talking about price at an Ethereum conference where it always goes down at an Ethereum conference, but it's not something we should concentrate on, but it definitely is like, it's just a sore side or a sore, spot in our side on the industry, much like the FTX thing. So like, hopefully in the coming decade, there's less and less of those, but it is what it is. I mean, it's crypto.
Well, I think we can asymptotically try to get that to zero. So let's hope for that world. Andrew, thank you so much for this amazing chat, and feel free to talk to Andrew if you have any questions.
Thank you.
It's going to be a round of applause.